Hey, listening squirrels. Sorry I didn't get to read yesterday. I was so sick. Got Santa hat number 2 done, but I gotta find my pom-pom maker. Or buy another. I only like the clover ones. Okay, let's see. Last thing I read was, now hurry up and finish, for I find it a trifle cold out here. I laughed as I spoke, for Rosa eyed me with a sidelong glance and gently waved the docked tail, which was her delight. For the sly thing liked to be flattered and was as fond of compliments as a girl. Many thanks. I will come now to the most interesting portion of my narrative. As I was saying, instead of knocking me on the head, I was packed off to New Hampshire, and had a fine rest among the green hills with a dozen or so weary friends. It was during this holiday that I acquired the love of nature which Miss Mary detected and liked in me. When she found me ready to study sunsets with her, to admire new landscapes, and enjoy bright summer weather. In the autumn, a livery stable keeper bought me, and through the winter fed me up until I was quite presentable in the spring. It was a small town, but through the summer many city people visited there, so I was kept on the trot while the season lasted because ladies could drive me. You, Miss Belinda, were one of the ladies, and I shall never forget, though I have long ago forgiven it, how you laughed at my queer gait the day you hired me. My tender feet and stiff knees made me tread very gingerly, and amble along with short mincing steps which contrasted oddly, I know, with my proudly waving tail and high-carried head. You liked me nevertheless, because I didn't rattle you down the steep hills, was not afraid of locomotives, and stood patiently while you gathered flowers and enjoyed the lovely prospects. I have always felt a regard for you since you did not whip me, and admired my eyes, which I may say, without vanity, have always been considered unusually fine. But no one ever won my whole heart like Miss Mary, and I never shall forget the happy day when she came to the stable to order a saddle horse. Her cheery voice made me prick up my ears, and when she said, after looking at several showy beasts, "No, they don't suit me. This one now has the right air. Can I ride her?" My heart danced within me, and I looked round with a whinny of delight. She understood my welcome, and came right up to me, petted me, peered into my face, rubbed my nose, and looked at my feet with an air of interest and sympathy that made me feel as if I'd like to carry her round the world. Ah, what rides we had after that! What happy hours, trotting gaily through the green woods, galloping over the breezy hills, or pacing slowly along quiet lanes, where I often lunched luxuriously on clover tops, while Miss Mary took a sketch of some picturesque bit with me in the foreground. I liked that, and we had long chats at such times, for she seemed to understand me perfectly. She was never frightened when I danced for pleasure on the soft turf, never chid me when I snatched a bite from the young trees as we passed through sylvan ways, never thought it a trouble to let me wet my tired feet in babbling brooks, or to dismount and take out the stones that plagued me. Then how well she rode, so firm yet light a seat, so steady a hand, so agile a foot to spring on and off, and such infectious spirits that no matter how despondent or cross I might be, in 5 minutes I felt gay and young again when dear Miss Mary was on my back. Here Rosa gave a frisk that sent the straw flying, and made me shrink into the corner, while she pranced about the box with a neigh which waked the big brown colt next door, and set poor Buttercup to lowing for her calf, the loss of which she had forgotten for a little while in sleep. Ah, Miss Mary never ran away from me. She knew my heels were to be trusted, and she let me caper as I would, glad to see me lively. Never mind, Miss Belinda, come out and I'll be sober as befits my years, laughed Rosa, composing herself and adding, so like a woman that I could not help smiling in the dark, when I say years, I beg you to understand I'm not as old as that base man declared, but just in the prime of life for a horse. Hard usage has made me seem old before my time, and I'm good for years of service yet. Few people have been through as much as you have, Rosa, and you certainly have earned the right to rest, I said consolingly, for her little whims and vanities amused me much. You know what happened next, she continued, but I must seize this opportunity to express my thanks for all the kindness I've received since Miss Mary bought me in spite of the ridicule and dissuasion of all her friends. I know I didn't look like a good bargain, for I was very thin and lame and shabby, but she saw and loved the willing spirit in me, pitied my hard lot, and felt that it would be a good deed to buy me even if she never got much work out of me. I shall always remember that, and whatever happens to me hereafter, I never shall be as proud again as I was on that day she put my new saddle and bridle on, and I was led out, sleek, plump, and handsome, with the blue rosettes at my ears, my tail cut in the English style, and on my back Miss Mary in her London hat and habit, all ready to head a cavalcade of 18 horsemen and horsewomen. We were the most perfect pair of all when the troop caracoled, I'm sure I messed that up, down the wide street 6 abreast. My head was the highest, my rider the straightest, and our 2 hearts the friendliest in all the goodly company. Nor is it pride and love alone that binds me to her, it is gratitude as well. For did not she often bathe my feet herself, rub me down, water me, blanket me, and daily come to see me when I was here alone for weeks in the winter time? Didn't she study horses' feet and shoes that I might be cured if possible? Didn't she write to the famous friend of my race for advice, and drive me 7 miles to get a good smith to shoe me well? Have not my poor contracted feet grown much better, thanks to the weeks of rest without shoes which she gave me? Am I not fat and handsome, and barring the stiff knees, a very presentable horse? If I am, it is all owing to her, and for that reason I want to live and die in her service. She doesn't want to sell me, and only bade you do it because she didn't want the care of me while she is gone. Because you didn't want the care of me while she was gone. Dear Miss Belinda, please keep me. I'll eat as little as I can. I won't ask for a new blanket, though your old army one is very thin and shabby. I'll trot for you all winter and try not to show it if I'm lame. I'll do anything a horse can, no matter how humble, to earn my living. Only don't, pray, don't send me away among strangers who have neither interest nor pity for me. Rosa had spoken rapidly, feeling that her plea must be made now or never, for before another Christmas she might be far away, and speech of no use to win her wish. I was much touched, though she was only a horse, for she was looking earnestly at me as she spoke, and made the last words very eloquent by preparing to bend her stiff knees and lie down at my feet. I stopped her and answered with my arm about her neck and her soft nose in my hand. You shall not be sold, Rosa. You shall go on and board at Mr. Towns's great stable, where you will have pleasant society among the 80 horses, who usually pass the winter there. Your shoes must be taken off, and you shall rest till March at least. The best care will be taken of you, dear, and I will come and see you, and in the spring you shall return to us, even if Miss Mary is not here to welcome you. Oh, thanks, many, many thanks, but I wish I could do something to earn my board. I hate to be idle, though rest is delicious. Is there nothing I can do to repay you, Miss Belinda? Please answer quickly, for I know the hour is almost over, cried Rosa, stamping with anxiety, for like all her sex she wanted the last word. Yes, you can, I cried, as a sudden idea popped into my head. I'll write down what you have told me and send the little story to a certain paper I know of, and the money I get for it will pay your board. So rest in peace, my dear. You will have earned your living and may feel that your debt is paid. Before she could reply, the clock struck 1, and a long sigh of satisfaction was all the response in her power. But we understood each other now, and cutting a lock from her mane for Miss Mary, I gave Rosa a farewell caress and went away, wondering if I had made it all up or if she had really broken a year's silence and freed her mind. However that may be, here is the tale, and the sequel to it is that the bay mare has really gone to board at a first-class stable, concluded Miss Belinda. I call occasionally and leave my card in the shape of an apple, finding Madame Rosa living like an independent lady with a large box and private yard on the sunny side of the barn, a kind ostler to wait upon her, and much genteel society from the city when she is inclined for company. What more could any reasonable horse desire? That's all, but I'm going to go ahead and start another story. Tilly's Christmas. I'm so glad tomorrow is Christmas because I'm going to have a lot of presents. So am I glad, though I don't expect any presents but a pair of... So am I glad, though I don't expect any presents but a pair of mittens. And so am I, but I shan't have any presents at all. As the 3 little girls trudged home from school, they said these things. And as Tilly spoke, both the others looked at her with pity and some surprise, for she spoke cheerfully, and they wondered how she could be happy when she was so poor she could have no presents on Christmas. Don't you wish you could find a purse full of money right here in the path? Said Kate, the child who was going to have lots of presents. Oh, don't I, if I could keep it honestly, and Tilly's eyes shone at the very thought. What would you buy? Asked Bessie, rubbing her cold hands and longing for her mittens. I'd buy a pair of large warm blankets, a load of wood, a shawl for Mother, and a pair of shoes for me. And if there was enough left, I'd give Bessie a new hat. Then she needn't wear Ben's old felt one, answered Tilly. The girls laughed at that, but Bessie pulled the funny hat over her ears and said she was much obliged, but she'd rather have candy. Let's look, and maybe we can find a purse. People are always going about with money at Christmas time, and someone may lose it here, said Kate. So as they went along the snowy road, they looked about them, half in earnest, half in fun. Suddenly, Tilly sprang forward, exclaiming, I see it! I found it! The others followed, but all stopped disappointed, for it wasn't a purse, it was only a little bird. It lay upon the snow with its wings spread and feebly fluttering as if too weak to fly. Its little feet were benumbed with cold, its once bright eyes were dull with pain, and instead of a blithe song, it could only utter a faint chirp now and then as if crying for help. Nothing but a stupid old robin. How provoking, cried Kate, sitting down to rest. I shan't touch it. I found one once and took care of it, and the ungrateful thing flew away the minute it was well, said Bessie, creeping under Kate's shawl and putting her hands under her chin to warm them. Poor little birdie, how pitiful he looks, and how glad he must be to see someone coming to help him. I'll take him up gently and carry him home to Mother. Don't be frightened, dear, I'm your friend. And Tilly knelt down in the snow, stretching her hand to the bird with the tenderest pity in her face. Kate and Bessie laughed. Don't stop for that thing, it's getting late and cold. Let's go on and look for the purse, they said, moving away. You wouldn't leave it to die, cried Tilly. I'd rather have the bird than the money, so I shan't look any more. The purse wouldn't be mine, and I should only be tempted to keep it. But this poor thing will thank and love me, and I'm so glad I came in time." Gently lifting the bird, Tilly felt its tiny cold claws cling to her hand, and saw its dim eyes brightened as it nestled down with a grateful chirp. "Now I've got a Christmas present after all," she said, smiling as they walked on. "I always wanted a pet bird, and this one will be such a pretty pet for me. He'll fly away the first chance he gets and die anyhow, so you'd better not waste your time over him," said Bessie. "He can't pay you for taking care of him, and my mother says it isn't worthwhile to help folks that can't help us," added Kate. "My mother says do as you'd be done by, and I'm sure I'd like anyone to help me if I was dying of cold and hunger. Love your neighbor as yourself is another of her sayings. This bird is my little neighbor, and I'll love him and care for him, as I often wish our rich neighbor would love and care for us," answered Tilly, breathing her warm breath over the benumbed bird, who looked up at her with confiding eyes, quick to feel and know a friend. "What a funny girl you are," said Kate, "caring for that silly bird and talking about loving your neighbor in that sober way. Mr. King don't care a bit for you and never will, though he knows how poor you are, so I don't think your plan amounts to much." "I believe it, though, and shall do my part anyway. Good night. I hope you'll have a Merry Christmas and lots of pretty things," answered Tilly as they parted. Her eyes were full, and she felt so poor as she went on alone toward the little old house where she lived. It would have been so pleasant to know that she was going to have some of the pretty things all children love to find in their full stockings on Christmas morning, and pleasanter still to have been able to give her mother something nice. So many comforts were needed, and there was no hope of getting them, for they could barely get food and fire. "Never mind, Bertie, we'll make the best of what we have, and be merry in spite of everything. You shall have a happy Christmas anyway, and I know God won't forget us if everyone else does." She stopped a minute to wipe her eyes and lean her cheek against the bird's soft breast, finding great comfort in the little creature, though it could only love her, nothing more. "See, Mother, what a nice present I found," she cried, going in with a cheery face that was like sunshine in the dark room. "I'm glad of that, dearie, for I haven't been able to get my little girl anything but a rosy apple. Poor bird, give it some of your warm bread and milk." "Why, Mother, what a big bowl full! I'm afraid you gave me all the milk," said Tilly, smiling over the nice steaming supper that stood ready for her. "I've had plenty, dear. Sit down and dry your wet feet and put the bird in my basket on this warm flannel." Tilly peeped into the closet and saw nothing there but dry bread. "Mother's given me all the milk and is going without her tea 'cause she knows I'm hungry. Now I'll surprise her, and she shall have a good supper too. She is going to split wood, and I'll fix it while she's gone." So Tilly put down the old teapot, carefully poured out a part of the milk, and from her pocket produced a great plummy bun that one of the school children had given her, and she had saved for her mother. A slice of the dry bread was nicely toasted, and the bit of butter set by for her put on it. When her mother came in, there was the table drawn up in a warm place, a hot cup of tea ready, and Tilly and Bertie waiting for her. Such a poor little supper, yet such a happy one, for love, charity, and contentment were guests there. And that Christmas Eve was a blighter one than that up at the great house where lights shone. Blither one. Fires blazed, a great tree glittered, and music sounded as the children danced and played. We must go to bed early, for we've only wood enough to last over tomorrow. I shall be paid for my work the day after, and then we can get some," said Tilly's mother as they sat by the fire. "If my bird was only a fairy bird and would give us 3 wishes, how nice it would be." "Poor dear, he can't give me anything, but it's no matter," answered Tilly, looking at the robin who lay in the basket with his head under his wing, a mere little feathery bunch. "He can give you one thing, Tilly, the pleasure of doing good. That is one of the sweetest things in life, and the poor can enjoy it as well as the rich." As her mother spoke, with her tired hands softly stroking her daughter's hair, Tilly suddenly started and pointed to the window, saying in a frightened whisper, "I saw a face, a man's face looking in. It's gone now, but I truly saw it. Some traveler attracted by the light, perhaps. I'll go and see." And Tilly's mother went to the door. No one was there. The wind blew cold, the stars shone, the snow lay white on the field and wood, and the Christmas moon was glittering in the sky. "What sort of face was it?" asked Tilly's mother, coming back. "A pleasant sort of face, I think, but I was so startled I don't quite know what it was like." "I wish we had a curtain there," said Tilly. "I like to have our light shine out in the evening, for the road is dark and lonely just here, and the twinkle of our lamp is pleasant to people's eyes as they go by. We can do so little for our neighbors. I'm glad to cheer the way for them. Now put these poor old shoes to dry and go to bed, dearie. I'll come soon." Tilly went, taking her bird with her to sleep in his basket nearby, lest he should be lonely in the night. Soon the little house was dark and still, and no one saw the Christmas spirits at their work that night. When Tilly opened the door next morning, she gave a loud cry, clapped her hands, and then stood still, quite speechless with wonder and delight. There before the door lay a great pile of wood, all ready to burn, a big bundle and basket with a lovely nosegay of winter roses, holly, and evergreen tied to the handle. "Oh, Mother, did the fairies do it?" cried Tilly, pale with her happiness as she seized the basket while her mother took in the bundle. "Yes, dear, the best and dearest fairy in the world, called Charity. She walks abroad at Christmas time, does beautiful deeds like this, and does not stay to be thanked," answered her mother with full eyes as she undid the parcel. There they were, the warm, thick blankets, the comfortable shawl, the new shoes, and best of all, a pretty winter hat for Bessie. The basket was full of good things to eat, and on the flowers lay a paper saying, "For the little girl who loves her neighbor as herself." "Mother, I really think my bird is a fairy bird, and all these splendid things came from him," said Tilly, laughing and crying with joy. It really did seem so, for as she spoke, the robin flew to the table, hopped to the nosegay, and perching among the roses began to chirp with all his little might. The sun streamed in on flowers, bird, and happy child, and no one saw his shadow glide away. Glide away from the window. No one ever knew that Mr. King had seen and heard the little girls the night before, or dreamed that the rich neighbor had learned a lesson from the poor neighbor. And Tilly's bird was a fairy bird, for by her love and tenderness to the helpless things, she brought good gifts to herself. Happiness to the unknown giver of them, and a faithful little friend who did not fly away, but stayed with her till the snow was gone, making summer for her in the wintertime. And that's all. Very short story. And the next one we'll get to hopefully tomorrow is called What the Bell Saw and Said. And that's the last little Christmas story in this book by Louisa May Alcott. So I better get busy looking for more short stories. I had a book, I was thinking about it earlier, and I got it 100 years ago when I was a kid. Probably in like second grade, second or third grade. We used to order Scholastic books. Oh my, I used to love getting. And when I was a teacher, I would hand out those flyers, and some of the kids got them. The ones who couldn't afford them, I always bought extras for our class library. But when the kids took them home, I didn't care if they came back or not. So I remember how wonderful it was to order books and get books, and just looking through those paper flyers was just almost like at Christmas time looking through the Sears wish book. I love books. I love libraries. And my daughters do too. I think my grands do too. I just have a love of reading. I need to be getting books instead of reading on the Kindle, but it's kind of just convenient. But we'll see. But I was thinking, what made me think of that was I had a Christmas book that I'd had all these years. I don't know what I did with it. And that didn't happen with the cleanup. I don't know what's happened to it. But maybe I'll find one like it. Love y'all. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. And hope to see you tomorrow live at 5. I'll have my makeup on, look a little bit better. And maybe, I doubt it, maybe a little ball on this. Got a bougie palm, but it's not white. Should have made this longer so it would have hung down longer. But I just followed the pattern exactly. Love y'all. I already said that. See you tomorrow, I hope. Have a good sleep. Night, night.